Hello. I made it. Just. Attend, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
I bet you've done it often. We all do, and we can all make it if we try. But I can't help thinking nowadays we get carted around so often in transport, we really don't use our legs as much as we ought to. With animals, proper wild animals, it's a different matter altogether. That they've got to be prepared to run, and run flat out at any time, perhaps to run away from something, or maybe to chase it and catch it, because that's their food. Animals do literally run for their lives. Hemsbok, South African oryx at full stretch across the veldt. Zebra, flat out. Prey animals running for their lives. But here is a predator. And it's interesting because it's the fastest animal on four legs on Earth. It's a cheetah. It's only a little bit faster than the Thompson's gazelle it's running down. But it's fast enough to be able to follow its every turn, slowly close with it, and make a kill. So let's just watch its action, and later on, perhaps we can analyze it in other animals. The gap is slowly closing. It'll be able to get close enough to trip it. It'll vanish in a cloud of dust, and everything will be over. Legs and feet. What we were looking at there was the very top of the ladder of animal running, animal athletics. But where did it all begin? About 350 million years ago, a vertebrate animal came out of the water onto the land to start it all going. And it could well have looked a little bit like that African lungfish there, because it had rudimentary legs which developed underwater from fins, which helped it. And it still helps it, because that animal's still around now, and it does use these curious, primitive-looking legs to help its motion a little bit on the wet ground, because it does spend a lot of its time on the dry when the floodplains dry out. It has to do it. Well, bit by bit, those fins developed into something very much more substantial and recognizable as legs, and we're going to trace this now through a whole host of different animals. That lungfish is, or could be, about 4 feet long, and it breathes air through lungs. You can see well the fins that have developed. There it is breathing at the surface, and it's the nearest fish relative to today's land vertebrates. Now take things a stage further, and you get to an animal like the common newt, a truly amphibious animal, but one that in fact spends a little bit more time on the land than in the water. And it's got the first sign of something that looks like a leg as we know it, but it's a thin and rather puny leg that is used not a great deal underwater because its tail enables it to swim like a fish. But on the land, although the leg is scarcely strong enough to lift its body off the ground, it's undoubtedly a help to it. Anyone who's found a newt on the land knows very well that you don't have to run very fast to catch them. A slow-moving creature. Look where its legs join the body, and you can see that it's very thin and puny. There's very little muscle there. But nonetheless, it's a proper developing leg with toes on the end of it, and a leg that's beginning to have a very considerable use and of great help to a newt. From the little newt to a sophisticated reptile. This is a savanna monitor lizard, growing up to about 5 feet long, and an altogether faster-moving creature when it has to. The more erect posture there is all part of being able to use its legs. It's feeding on these millipedes, and talking of feet and legs, look at that. 200 pairs of them, all on the go. Mombasa trains, they call them in Africa. And that's very much what they look like. Food for the monitor. But let's come back to this monitor. Study the structure of it. The first thing that strikes you is the strength of the muscles where the legs join the body. The base of the tail there, enabling the leg to thrust the heavy body backwards. It's moving slowly in the film, but it can move very quickly, and it can lift its body clean off the ground and run more or less on the tips of its toes. And look at those toes. big claws on the end to help the monitor climb. But the shortcoming of it is it's still a primitive leg in that it's in a perpetual press-ups position, which is inefficient and exhausting. And bit by bit, those legs have got to evolve to get under the body to take the weight of it. When you look at this, you'll feel that you are still looking at a dinosaur in more senses than one. It still has that authentic primeval look about it. I wonder if you notice, looking at that monitor, a very important part about its action. Assuming you're looking down on it, and here's its head and neck, this great curve in its body, see the front limbs were out here like this, going forward, and its belly here, so we've got one leg coming up like that, and another leg coming back down here like that. Now, you see straight away the advantage this is giving, because the backbone, in swiveling forward, is giving far more effective length to the outside leg, and then it'll swivel back again, and the other leg comes forward, so that although the legs are pretty short on lizards of this kind, they're getting the maximum out of it by using the back. Now, as soon as the monitor begins to move fast, it has a completely different gait, and the backbone then won't move half so actively as it is in the slow motion. But the whole point is this: these legs are splayed out and therefore inefficient. And I mentioned about dinosaurs. Well, now, a lot of the dinosaurs had managed the great breakthrough of getting their legs right underneath their bodies so that the legs were in compression. And when you've done that, the lift is being taken on the legs and the whole thing is much more efficient. And after all, don't forget, running is no more than pushing the ground behind you. And that's really what the whole thing's all about. Now, from this branch of the dinosaurs that had evolved a narrow pelvis came the birds. So you might say that the dinosaurs are still alive and well, but most of them covered in feathers. And this is a perfect example, a rook, a perching bird of the same group to which sparrows belong, and the legs and feet designed simply for use in trees, for perching, for getting the animal about as effectively as possible. Here's a bit of a mystery picture. Can you guess who owns those legs? Winner of an ankle contest. Well, it's an ostrich, the heaviest of all birds, where the toes have evolved into two. One big long one with a claw nail on the front and another balancing toe beside it. Still very much of the dinosaur shape, but a bird that actually could fly and gave up flying in the interests of perfection in running on the plains. There she goes, belting across the Etosha Pan. Now, I want you to use your imagination a bit and try and think what an ostrich would look like with no feathers on, a nude ostrich. And we'll see what happens underneath. Forget the little wings, because they're nearly nothing. Well, now, in this position, there are no feathers, so here comes the thigh of an ostrich, and it's very, very short with the knee here. Then the next lot comes down, like that, with the little knee, to the bit that we think of as a knee, but which is the ankle. A little bit more. That's the tarsus. And here comes the foot. And on the other side, the same sort of thing is happening. The knee would come up here like that. And there comes the little two-toed foot out there in front. And then, of course, to get the picture, you have to think of all the lovely can-can fluff over that that's hiding it from view. But the anatomy of the thing is interesting. But this is the point to remember, that in this animal, a real runner, we're beginning to see the importance of having all these powerful muscle groups that drive the legs all close up around the mass here, so that the legs themselves are just out like sort of golf club handles flying around. They're light and easy to move, but the power is close into the body. And of course, it has the advantage that it can be kept warm by feathers while the legs are out in the wind. And it's all common sense. These legs are coated with scales, as you've noticed, so that they can crash through the scrub and do no harm to them whatsoever. It's all a masterpiece of design. Truly lovely poetic motion, slightly slowed up. Both toes touching together, but the long one with the short nail on thrusting forward for the next stride. Mile after mile, easy, lopey movement. The kind of running style that any human athlete would be proud to emulate.
On your marks, set!
These boys and girls at Sprowston High School, Norwich, are doing just exactly that, emulating the ostrich. Some of them are wearing spikes, and some aren't. On a prepared track, spikes must be a very great help. But an animal couldn't wear spikes under its feet because it doesn't run on tracks. It has to take the ground as it comes. Some of these runners are wearing gym shoes with no spikes, and that allows their toes to grip a little. It's almost as if they were running on bare feet, which also can be a help. But think of it if the grass is wet and they slide all over the place. We can do a little bit of everything. We can run very nearly as well and using the same style as an ostrich. But we always need something more to help us towards perfection. All the same, there's an enormous amount of fun in just trying to do your very best. The kangaroo's approach is certainly no less effective, but entirely different. Similar foot, differently used. But the versatile human being can and will try everything. We can hop too. It's just a question of degree and the equipment you've got. The kangaroo is superbly adapted. Those long lower legs, very strong elastic tendons, huge haunch muscles, and the balancing tail. And then it just plays things by ear. It'll walk on all fives using the tail, and then hop off when a bigger distance is called on. Do you know, those leaps are 25 feet and the speed about 45 miles an hour. Now, I've gone a bit further with the kangaroo than I did with the ostrich, and I've x-rayed it. So here's the structure underneath. This narrow pelvis, the thigh bone here, the femur, the knee right up here, quite short, then this very, very long tibia and fibula, and the tarsus down here. Little three-toed foot. But this is the important thing. This is the attachment of the Achilles tendon, and that's incredibly elastic, rather like catapult elastic. And you can see it there if you look closely. You can see the bone underneath and the Achilles tendon. And it's the stretching effect of that that gives all the drive to a kangaroo. The other thing is, of course, that without its tail, balancing tail, it couldn't hop at all. So it's the combination of all these factors that make hopping just right for kangaroos. Now here's a good standard running animal. Beautiful balance, narrow, the front legs and the back legs carrying much the same degree of weight. And everything's superbly coordinated. A zebra. It's a horse, a simple horse. And we all know that horses have got different gaits, a walk, a trot, a canter, and a gallop. And the zebra does precisely the same. Let's compare the swift-moving, hunted animal with the hunter, the lion. Well, there are similarities, but the differences are much greater. That lion is anxious that we should look at its foot. It's like a huge version of the foot of your own moggy. It's a typical cat's foot. It's got totally retractable claws, which are lethally sharp, like great meat hooks, but stored in sheaths, which at a time like this hide them completely. It looks soft. It is soft on the outside. Lions like nothing better than to lie around on their backs after a meal and show you the structure of the foot. And there it is, the big pad at the back, corresponding to the base of our fingers, and the four pads above. And so different from the cheetah, which like a dog has got claws out all the time and uses them for running spikes. The lion holds the claws in reserve. These little differences are apparent throughout all animals, even of similar habit. There goes a kudu. The giraffe's legs are what I want you to look at. We've all seen giraffe's legs in the zoo, and sometimes they're quite unbelievable. They strike you as being so long, and the neck. They have to be splayed out at the water hole so that even a neck of that length can reach the water. It's give and take throughout the animal kingdom. You trade certain things for other things and make a compromise of it, and the giraffe is that shape for no other reason than that it must get up and browse off the tops of tall acacia trees. But look at its gait. It sort of hiccups along. It's as if it's doing a wheelie. It has to lift its front legs with the inertia of its neck to take a stride forward. Notice another thing. There's always one foot in contact with the ground, unlike a zebra. And the back legs are providing the forward thrust. They always strike me as looking like a fleet of small yachts after a start of a race bucking into a short sea. And as they move in that quiet, graceful way, there's always a funny little hiccup of movement as the neck snaps back that spoils the flow. But they are fast enough. They've got to get away from lions, and they do. But they're nowhere near as fast as some of the other plains game. 25 miles an hour is about all a giraffe can do at full stretch. Let's watch now a very close relative of ours Tarzaning around in the forests of Borneo. It's an orangutan. Now, as you watch this, think back to the zebra on the plains of Africa, on that totally open country, with those beautifully adapted hooves, all four hooves precisely the same, on the end of four legs. Come back to the orang again, look at the way he behaves, and think of this animal perhaps not so much as a four-legged animal, as a four-armed animal. And think of them perhaps not as 4 feet, but as 4 hands, because the foot of an orang is exactly like a hand. The big toe is exactly like a thumb, and it does precisely the same job of work. It's true to say that the arms of an orang are far more dominant than the legs. They're a great deal longer, probably a lot stronger, and certainly used a great deal more for all kinds of manipulation. But the important part, what happens at the end of them, is the same. And as it sits there, chewing away, its feet are holding exactly like hands onto the branch below. How lost would this creature be on a plain? It's entirely a forest development, so much so that they scarcely even touch the ground in their own forests. Their life is in the branches, and their hands to them are every bit as vital as the trees they live in. Well, as you saw at the beginning, I did catch my bus. And look at him. That's Joel Bennett, survival cameraman escaping from a bear in Alaska, and I'll bet he was glad to have his legs. Let's run now. Goodbye.